into, you guys, is we will get into several different ways of analyzing investments. The trend charts are just one of them. If I tried to give you guys all of that at the same time, you guys would all click off because it would be just too boring. That's why I try to feed it to you bit by bit by bit. So we'll eventually get into some trend charts. Now, with that said, me personally, do I use trend charts as my only source of looking at investments? No, I don't. Do I even look at it as my major source? No, I don't. But I do use them, and I use them primarily as a supplement. Because once you guys start to kind of understand how it works, and particularly after you start seeing enough of them, you'll be able to spot certain things. Okay, because like even Bitcoin, when you get a chance, without me even going into trend charts, when you guys get a chance, just pull up the chart for Bitcoin and just to see its growth. And you'll start to know automatically certain things like resistant lines, support lines, things like that. I mean, I'll give you an example. $50 before it even happened, I knew $50 was going to be a resistant line. And so in other words, what I mean by that is that it was trending up that way, but that's going to be the next significant point that it's going to have to break. Okay? And so that by that being its resistance line, it went up over 50 for a while, and then it came back down, just like, I was quite certain of, and I'm sure a lot of analysts were also. And then what happens is it retreats down, okay? And so it kind of bounces. That's what it does. It kind of bounces. And you can almost see where the areas of support are, okay? Like, I don't have it in front of me, but I'm going to say area of support right now is probably around 47, which is pretty aggressive considering it was just, 33,000, a couple weeks ago? And you're talking about an area of support already being 47. So basically what that means that the way that it's acting is acting like it's not going to hardly go under 47, or if it does, not for long. You know what? I'm going to look right now where it is. Shirley Holmes, you out there? I'm getting ready to look at your account. And some people think, oh, wow, I can look at my sister's account. And they think, oh, what if I give you money to invest? No, I don't handle people's money, okay? We talk about educational things, but I never touch your money. She's my sister. She's different, all right? We just share everything. We grew up that way. But it's over 49,000 right now, which is pretty good. So little sister, you're making some money. So that's pretty good, and I think I'm right as far as support being somewhere around 47. And then tonight or in the morning, I'll be able to look at that stuff a lot clearer. But anyway, I digress because we're not really even going there right now. But when we're researching investments and we're researching stocks, you guys asked me before, okay, well, where do we use to start our research? Well, you can generally start, believe it or not, you can start with Google, and then that can lead you, certain places, and be, aware of the clickbait. I told you guys about all of that, the clickbait. In Yahoo Finance, you can get a pretty good amount of information on Yahoo Finance for free. And also, if one of your accounts is Robinhood, and I know we've had our little debates about Robinhood and so forth. But I will say this about them, is their educational tool is excellent. And they have a thing on Robinhood literally where you can click a button and it will be Analyst button. And it will tell you percentage-wise of the major analysts, how many of those analysts are bulls. In other words, they think it's gonna go up. And how many do they think are bears and they think it's going to go down? Now, keep in mind, if you got 90% of the analysts that say, that they're view it as a bull stock, is that good? Sure. But at the same time, keep in mind, none of it is the gospel. And like I say to you guys often, just view yourself as being the president of your corporation, okay? So as the president of your corporation, what you're doing is you're taking in all of this information from all the sources, and then you're going to make your business decision. I think it was the night before last, where literally I am watching a analyst who was negative on Bitcoin. And my wife was like, "Do you believe that? You believe that? You believe that?" And I said, "Honey, I got to listen to all of them. I don't want to just listen to the ones that I agree with. I want to listen to all of them. I want to listen to all of them, and so that I can decipher. And then in doing that, you should be able to protect yourself better, and to make sure you're not surprised. What if they're saying something that has some merit?" Now, this particular analyst, I didn't take with a lot of credence, but I still want to listen. You want to know. I mean, you got more and more analysts right now, and some of them are quite are reputable, saying that there's a bubble coming in the market. And I mean, that's something, whether you agree that there's a bubble coming or not, you need to at least listen, because sometimes they'll talk about the things that they see that lead to a bubble and so forth. And a lot of times it makes sense. I mean, I'll give you an example. They talk about just the, price to earnings ratio average and so forth. And like I said, we haven't gotten to all that yet. We're going to get to it. And how it's a little higher and things like that. And when they start to get higher, and they don't necessarily, they aren't necessarily an accurate reflection on their underlying stock. You need to be aware of that. And if so, why is it? Is it just something that's just blown up, or is there a reason for it? And you guys got to remember the education system I came from, the Wall Street education system, where literally the way I cut my teeth was on mathematical fundamentals. I mean, we're looking at the price to earnings. We're looking at the balance sheets. We're looking at the income statements. We're looking at all of that stuff. And I mean, I still look at them now, but I mean, and that was pretty much how the decisions were made, just really on just that, the mathematics and things like that. That's how I cut my teeth. But also think about it this way. And I gave you guys a little glimpse of this last week when I talked about the new age, modern portfolio theory. And it's Black Lion, James Holmes' modern portfolio theory, okay? And we talked about how the asset allocations changed. It's just, I didn't read somewhere where we need to replace the asset allocation pie chart. We need to replace bonds with crypto. I didn't read that anywhere. That's a command decision I made. It made sense to me. Just every way I looked at it, it made sense to me. And we've talked about that a little bit before, because to me, fixed income investments, they'll be slow to go because America is built largely on that. And if you think about that, America is funded by debt. What I mean by debt is Treasury bonds. What's Treasury bond? A Treasury bond is a bond issued by, the Fed, okay? Backed by the good faith, of America and so forth, blah, 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 right? And for years and years and years, that was considered the safest investment and so forth, right? It's a debt instrument, okay? So in other words, the country is putting out that debt instrument as a way to bring in money, all right, to the country, bring in money, or to the system, because even all of that really, really gets muddy. Let me give you an example before I get too far down the road. Um, and it's so funny sometimes when you listen to these analysts talk about, well, our fiat currency and our dollar, that's the international currency, and that always will be. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know about that. Okay? Think about this. We are led to believe that the Federal Reserve System, and there's 12 of them across the United States, and there's one in Minneapolis. There's one in Minneapolis. Call down there, I dare you. Or you don't even need to call down there. You can Google it. Google it and see who owns the Minneapolis Federal Reserve. Google it and see what it says. I haven't Googled it, but I know the answer. And usually I suspect what they'll do is they'll try to send you on a wild goose chase and try to make it confusing, because it is absolutely amazing how we've actually managed to make it confusing to know where our money comes from. If you ask the average person on the street where the money comes from, the majority of them probably don't even know, okay? And they don't even know who owns it. Well, they just assume that, well, the United States government owns it. Well, the Federal Reserve branches, okay, across the nation are actually privately owned. What? They're privately owned. The Minneapolis Federal Reserve is not owned by the United States government. It's privately owned. It's privately owned by several of the banks that it serves. So if you guys ever just kind of scratch your head about some of the fiscal policies and things like that, it's like, how could they get away with it? How could they do that? Like, remember in 2008, the whole economy crashed. A lot of people lost their jobs, lost their homes, lost a good portion of their wealth and all of that. And so during that crash, you had several large Wall Street institutions either went out of business or they were in danger of going out of business. The Lehman Brothers actually went out of business. Bear Stearns was in trouble. Goldman Sachs were in trouble, and so forth. And in a nutshell, so we hear about, okay, well, they had the bailout by the government. Yeah, they did. It was, I think it was like $3 trillion bailout. Okay, so the government came up with this money to bail out these big institutions. What they called me, said they were too large to fail. Too large to fail. If you let them fail, then just the whole economic system collapses. All right, so that was what we were told. So you give these large Wall Street firms trillions of dollars, okay, so that they won't go bankrupt and that they won't fail. And so go back and look at this, guys. Go back in 2008, 2009, and look at them, and look at the bonuses for the CEOs of each one of those companies. Many of those CEOs that year, even with the government bailout, took hundreds of thousands of dollars of personal bonuses in their pocket. I'm not making that up. While the country was suffering, these leaders put hundreds of thousands of dollars individually in their pockets. And you're like, James, you got to be lying. No, you go research it. Go research. And you think, well, how can that be? Well, the way it can be is if these banks literally own the Federal Reserve, guess who the Federal Reserve is getting their marching orders from? Okay? Guess who they're getting their marching orders from? The Federal Reserve started in 1913, where you had a few multi-millionaires met down on a private little island in Florida. Research it. That's how they got started. That's literally how they got started, and it is still privately held. It is not owned by the government. The only thing that the president of the United States can do with the Fed is the president can put in the head of the Fed. Okay, but they are not owned by the government, and so that's why this knowledge matters, guys. Okay, because remember, I think what was it? A few weeks ago, we started talking about Bitcoin and some of the features of it and things like that, and how it was decentralized and so forth, and that it was not controlled by any one government, any one country, anything like that. And trust me, I promise you, they're staying up at night trying to figure out how they can actually control it. And another thing, what's it called? It's called, because it's decentralized, this is what they say inside our world here, finance world, is there's no neck to choke, okay? Because if there was only one entity that actually controlled it, the powers could come down and just basically choke that neck and get them to do the things that they want them to do. And so that's one of the frustrations that they have with Bitcoin, is because there's no one neck to choke. Not at all. They can't find a neck to choke to cut things off. So we should know all about choking necks, because we've been getting lynched since we've been here, okay? But that's their methods to dominate physically. That's also their methods to dominate financially. They want to find out what neck they can choke that neck, and then they have control. Well, it's decentralized, there's no neck to choke. So sometimes I listen to some of these guys from whatever, this big institution or that big institution. One of the guys from the Fed actually was on today, and I was thinking, oh man, let me turn this up. This has got to be funny. And he said what you thought he'd say. The company line. What else is he going to say? What else is he going to say? Bitcoin, they have not figured out a way to stop it. I don't see them figuring out a way to stop it. And I think it's like at 49 now. It will eventually go past 500,000 per coin in time. Can I tell you how long it's going to take? No, I can't tell you. And eventually, probably even past $1 million per coin in due time. That's going to take a little while. But the fact of the matter of it is, and this leads back to modern portfolio theory, is that modern portfolio theory, basically what it is that, remember we talked about the price to earnings and all those other numerical type equations to align the investment, the company, the stock versus what it's actually trading for, okay? And what modern portfolio theory says is that irregardless if you can figure out what makes it goes up and down, if it's consistently gone up, what else do you really need to know? And that was something even me. It took me 5 years for that to settle in, because it's not that tangible. You're talking about, okay, it's being recorded on this blockchain, okay? That's digital. It's not that tangible. Us baby boomers, we're looking for something tangible that we can hold in our hand. But it's not tangible. And I'll tell you something else. And I warned you guys about this. As digital is the way that things are going to be going. It's going to take a while. And different countries are going to be creating their own digital currency. China is head set on doing that now. And they say that, eventually, they'll try to make the American dollar digital and so forth too. As well as a bunch of digital coins coming out. There's already hundreds and hundreds of them. So still, even with that, remember, they're not all the same. They don't all do the same. They're not all created the same. So you'll still have to be aware of where you go in that, and you're still going to have to do your research. But anyway, so getting back to just really researching stocks and things like that, what we're going to do is next week, I'm going to pick a couple next week. And what I will do next week is I will go through the full stories, okay? In other words, I'm going to go through all the numbers. I'm going to go through past earnings, current earnings. We're going to look at the profit and loss statements, the income statements, and all that type of stuff. And I know it might sound boring, but you know what, you guys, this is still good knowledge because a lot of you guys are either have a business now or you're considering starting a business. And whenever you have a business, you still have the same documents. You'll have balance sheets, you'll have income statements on your own business. So you might as well start getting your mind right. Had a young lady who's called me this week. She says she's interested in getting a little bit more involved. She's been an accountant for a while, and she's tired of just giving her money, her services to other people, trading time for money. And we all have to figure that out. How much longer do we want to trade time for money? What is the value of our time that we're giving away, that we're selling? She says she's a trained accountant. I'm like, you know what? That's a great skill set because that is something that is definitely needed, accounting. And she's just already starting, as far as I'm concerned, with an advantage. It's just a matter of, how, we decide she wants to go from it and all that type of stuff. But accounting, and I will confess, is even in college, I hated it. I ain't gonna sit here in front. I hated it. Absolutely hated it, and kind of avoided it for a long time. I'm not even gonna sit. And then you know what? Finally, it got to a point where I'm like, you know what? There's certain things about that you can't just avoid it because if you do, it's gonna cost you somewhere. So you got to have the ability, even if you're not doing your own accounting, at least have the ability to where you have enough of an understanding to know if you're being pencil whipped or not. If somebody's stealing money from you, with a pencil. And also, even more than that, a lot of times they're not. But a whole lot of tax accountants do this is they just, they don't give you all your discounts. And you don't, you might not pick them up. You may not ever know. And that happens all the time. How does a guy like Donald Trump pay no income taxes? Think about it. How does a guy like Donald Trump pay no income taxes? So Donald Trump's a lot of things, okay? But I will tell you this about him, and he's a lot of bad things, but I will tell you this about him, is he does not do his own taxes. So we're all mad at Donald Trump because he didn't pay any taxes. But what Donald Trump does is he pays a whole series of accountants to do his taxes. And what do? Their job is to find him as many legitimate write-offs as they can. And guess what? They stamp that and they send it in. So to some degree, he's still being investigated and things like that. But to some degree, he's somewhat shielded because those CPAs, they put their stamp of approval on that, They did. Now, the things that he might be liable for is what information did he give the CPAs, blah, 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 and things like that. But so all of that matters because does it matter how much you make, how much you bring in? Sure it does. It matters. But you know what's just important to that is how much you keep. Okay? How much you keep. We have had years, I'm going to try not to get really in our business very much, but we have had years where we have paid a whole lot of money in taxes. A whole lot of money in taxes. And sometimes when you think back on it, you think, oh my goodness, I can't believe that we just gave away that. We didn't have a choice. We all got to pay our taxes, but we just gave that much money away to the federal government. Just can't even believe it. It is what it is. You can't get around that. But anyway, I don't want to spend too much time on that. So my perspective of picking stocks, do I look at the numbers and so forth? Yes, I do. Is that the main thing that I use to determine which company I'm going with? It used to be, but it's not anymore. All it is just another arrow that I have to either confirm my thoughts or whatever, or unconfirm them. So I look at that, and we'd already talked about the trend charts. Yeah, I'll look at that too. Well, what are the things that are more important to me? Well, at this point, particularly from working with you guys, no, I'm not on CRISPR and all that yet, guys. But at this point, the things that are more significant to me are things that I consider fairly safe, but yet at the same time can maximize my return. Because if you think about it, a good part of my audience is you guys. And most of you guys can't run the race behind. You can't. You're going to have to figure out ways to intelligently run ahead of the pack. Intelligently. And so, based partly on that, the story. And that has never changed. We want to know what the company stories are, okay? And when we know what the company stories are, we got to think, okay, does that make sense to us? Because that'll let us know if we want to go any further or not. Like say, for example, let's just say it's a company and their stories based upon things that I see is a sector that's out of favor. Here's a good example. If you look right now at some of the oil stocks, okay, there's places in the oil industry right now that's making money making and losing money because of the weather, okay, and how that's driving some of the prices up, okay? So you might think, oh, geez, let me get some of that. What I would say is, not so fast, my friend, okay? Maybe you're getting a little bounce now, but what is the projection 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, and beyond, okay? If you guys tuned in last week, you know that I consider the oil industry a sector that's out of favor as far as I'm concerned. And so if I've already classified them as out of favor, I'm really probably not doing anything in that industry. Probably not anything at all in that industry. The reason why is that there are so many other stocks, good companies, good stocks available to where you don't really need to spend your time on something that, is in a sector that you don't see that much future in. Could I be wrong? Sure, I could be wrong. I mean, the oil industry may figure out something and go on for more and more years making a lot of monies, okay? Because, the board of directors over at Exxon, they're not stupid, okay? Halliburton, they're not stupid. They didn't get this far by being stupid. All I am saying is that, from what I can see, it's going to get tougher on them. And another thing, what they might do is they might do something similar to R.J. Reynolds. I mean, R.J. Reynolds was a cigarette company, okay? And we could see a while ago where that was going as far as the future of cigarettes. I mean, once it got to be public that they cause cancer, it's like, do you really want to have all of your horses hitched to that wagon? Okay, they knew that. They understood that. Did they abandon the cigarette industry? No, they didn't, okay? But what they did was they limited their exposure. So if you go and you look at R.J. Reynolds right now, you can see they own all kind of stuff. They own like Nabisco and just all kinds of things. So they diversified that so that, are they still making some money there? Yep. They're still making money on cigarettes, and they always will be. But at the same time, they're not exposed to just that, for example. So we want to know their story, and that tells us if we want to go further or not. We want to know their general numbers, and that tells us if we want to go further or not also. And then once we dive deep into it, then that can tell us if we want to put it on our list. And ultimately, guys, we want to get everybody to the point to where they can, you guys can go out and do your own research. We want to get all of you guys to the point where you can go out and do your own research. Also, as a reminder, building a stock portfolio or crypto portfolio is not for everybody. I understand that. And that is totally fine. There are plenty of places where you could throttle that down and maybe just build a EFT portfolio. That's really pretty easy. I mean, you could just open an account and go to morningstar.com and just, scroll through the EFT list, find 10 you like, put 10% in each, and you'll probably be fine. And leave it alone. Maybe just dollar cost average into it. From time to time, you might look to see if, if something's really getting crushed, and if it's really getting crushed, why is it getting crushed? If something goes down for a day, a week, or month, I would really, not even worry about it. And that's why you do your research up front. You do your research up front so that you can, if it's having a tough time, you can always go back and remind yourself of the original reason that you bought it. Okay, the original reason that you bought it. And has anything materially changed since then? Has anything changed? So let's go through a few companies now. I think you guys got the screen for CRISPR, and you can look at that, and that's cool. But the one that I want to talk about first is it's called Galat Technologies. And the reason why I want to, all three of these, CRISPR, Square, and Galat, are companies that look good to me. Am I recommending that you buy them? No, I'm not recommending that you buy them. I don't hold anybody's money, okay? All these are companies that I personally own. And I didn't buy Galat until this morning. I actually put in a buy order, a market buy order, because you'll have limit buys and market buys and so forth. And we'll get to all of that later. But I put in a market buy order actually this weekend, and I forgot that Monday was a holiday, so it didn't get executed. It didn't get executed till this morning. But when we talked about CRISPR a little bit last week, and the thing that I said about CRISPR that I liked is that there's a chance that as this thing continues to blow up, that it could just take some exponential bounces. And I'll get into all the reasons and so forth later for that. But I feel the same way about Galat. Now, do I want a whole portfolio on stocks like this? No, I don't. Okay? Because even if I'm right on both of these, when they take their bounce, I do not know. Okay? I do not know. It's just that I've done enough research to know that even if it stayed right where it is for the next 3 years, I'm still okay, because I feel like they're good, solid companies. They're in an industry that I view as a favorable industry, and they have nice moats. You guys remember when I talked about the moats, as far as like competitive advantages and things like that. So anyway, let's look at Galat. So Galat right now is trading at around $19. Okay, and where is it going? Blah 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 blah. Okay, here we go. This is what Morningstar says about them. Here we go. Galat Satellite Networks Limited is a provider of satellite-based broadband communications. The company designs and manufactures ground-based satellite communications equipment, provides comprehensive solutions, and end-to-end services. Its portfolio includes cloud-based satellite network platform, um, VSAT terminals, amplifiers, high-speed modems, on-the-move antennas, high-powered solid-state power antennas, also known as SSPAs, block-up converters, and transceivers. The company's solutions support multiple applications with a full portfolio of products to address key applications including broadband access, cellular backhaul, enterprise, in-flight connectivity, maritime, trains, defense, and public safety. Defense and public safety. You guys picking up on any of those clues? They've already are starting to get some defense contracts. We think that they're going to get some more defense contracts. So let me break that down to you in plain English. So in plain English, what they do is they're involved in what we call low altitude satellites. Okay, and you're going to see more and more and more of those go. You guys know what 5G is doing now, and it's doing some impressive things. And you know that they have to hit one cellular tower to another, okay? And just that whole network of cellular towers, okay? So at some point, that technology where, you know, they're going from one cell tower to another in order to communicate is going to be superseded. Ooh, what is it going to be superseded by? Is going to be superseded by low altitude satellites. Those low altitude satellites are going to be doing a lot of things. They will be heavily involved as far as gathering information, which we all know that's what satellites do. We don't want to hear it sometimes, but they do. They will also be involved in your phone system. Okay? Eventually, the next thing past 5G is going to be these satellites. Actually, they're going to be quicker and more efficient than your phone system. So there'll be a point where Apple and Samsung and things like that, they'll have to go to these guys. All right? They'll have to go to them. And so many things is expanding out that way. And if you're already well positioned, guess what? They come and talk to you because they don't have to just build everything up from the ground. Literally, you're already established. Matter of fact, they started, did I write down the year that they started? So I got to do this by memory. But they've been in business for, I don't know, at least 30 years or so. So it's not like they're Johnny-come-latelys, all right? So they've actually been around for a while. And remember how I told you some of these companies, you know, you don't know how long you're going to sit on before they make a bounce. We think that they're getting closer. We think within the next, you know, year or two, it's going to bounce real good because when places like Apple, this is what Apple does, and Tesla and Amazon. This is what they all do, is when they're expanding their technologies, and they all are heavily involved in expanded technologies, okay? But when they're expanding their technologies, they do not own every single technology that they're expanding to. So what they'll do is they'll find a young company like this that's trading for, what is this trading, $19 a share, and that's actually gone up because more people are finding out about them, and they will say, hey, we want you doing all this stuff for us. Boom. Then all of a sudden, this stuff starts exploding. Okay, enough time on that. Let's go to Square, and then we'll eventually get to CRISPR. You guys know how I feel about Square. Been talking about it for a while. Let's see what Square has been doing. It's been, I know it's been doing well, and even though it's been doing well, I personally think that it's just scratching the surface. Some companies kind of just get it, Okay, some companies just kind of get it. So this is what they say about Square, and you can actually go on Cash App. Okay, you can go on Cash App and you can type in Square, and it'll give you some basics. Okay, so this is just some of the basics of it. It says founded in 2009, Square provides payment acquiring services to merchants along with related services. The company also launched Cash App, a person-to-person payment network. CEO is Jack Dorsey. And when you get a chance, just Google Jack Dorsey, because I'm gonna tell you, he's an impressive guy. Him and Jack Dorsey also owns Twitter. But anyway, Jack Dorsey and who was the guy he went in with? Jay-Z. Jack Dorsey and Jay-Z just earlier this week donated a pretty good amount of Bitcoin to Africa. Okay, a pretty good amount. You guys can Google the exact amount or whatever. But that kind of tells you, a little bit about the guy. He is sharp. Remember I said one of the things you want to look at is you want to look at management. So we know that, he's a sharp guy. Some of them you can recognize as sharp and not like. For example, Steve Jobs for Apple. I recognize he was sharp. I just personally didn't like him. Okay, but that didn't keep me from investing in the company. So you can make those choices because there are a few companies I won't invest in because I don't like them, and some of them, I'm just only looking at the money. Everybody's got to make their own decision on that. So check this out. This is what Morningstar says about Square. Narrow moat. Woohoo! Remember what we talked about, that moat? Square generated good growth in the third quarter despite the pandemic. I talked about that a little bit last week too. If a company can prosper during the pandemic, I think it's a pretty good sign. Says we are particularly impressed with the performance of the Cash App platform. Oh, y'all already know. Remember the Peter Lynch theory? Buy what you know. Buy what you know. You guys know that. Almost all you guys out there got Cash App. Some of y'all are the one that told me about it. Well, I think my kids might have been the one that told me, Daddy, can you just Cash App it to me? Okay, sure. Let me get it. I'll do it. And so I started dealing with it in the whole platform. I'm like, this is nice. So anyway, moving back. All right. After reviewing our assumptions, we are raising our fair market estimates from 2024. We found a higher. Okay, revenues increased 140% year over year. However, the bulk of this growth was related to an explosion in Bitcoin volumes, which in our best view, is passed through items, given the Square collects on only small bid ask price. So they're claiming that remember I talked to you last week how they get a little bit of that profit. They're saying it's only narrow, but to me it ain't that narrow when you're getting, $2 to $3 per 100 of every transaction whether somebody buys or sells Bitcoin. And remember that they're early to the Bitcoin thing too, and I think they spend like 5% of their assets on Bitcoin. When you got a whole lot of other big companies, one either figuring out what's going on, and if they're not figuring that out, they're like fighting it. That'll never last, or they're like, we'd like to get some of that, but we're trying to figure out how to get it. Okay, where Dorsey just went in and he's like, hey, I've seen enough. We're going to have some of this. So here we go. It says business strategy and outlook. We think Square's business model characterized by efficient client onboarding, innovative point of sale devices, flat fees, and internally developed and integrated set of software solutions allow the company to reach and retain micro merchants. And that's kind of what we do, a lot of the little micro stuff. In essence, we believe that Square's success has largely come from expanding the acquiring market, as opposed to stealing material share from existing players. I think they will start to get some more shares from some of the other companies too. To develop sufficient scale, share must move past its micro merchants base, and recent results suggest that it's doing just that. At this point, a bit more than a half of its payment volume comes from merchants generating over 125,000 in annual gross payment volume. Furthermore, absolute growth in clients above this threshold has accelerated meaningfully over the past couple of years, while absolute growth in merchants below has thresholds largely blah, 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 blah. I bore you by going through all of that. So the long and the short of it, you guys go in there and start doing some of your research. But one of their moats is the fact that they're in this micro payment system business, because there's not that many players in it right now, and not too many do it as well as they do. A lot of you guys use, they say white people use Venmo and black people use Square. I haven't used Venmo enough to know all the little ins and outs of it, but I like where Square is going, and I personally think that it is really just scratching the surface. Where is it trading at today? Where is it trading at today? Okay, looks like it's at 276. I think it's gonna continue to go up past that. All right, so let's get to the honey hole. CRISPR. We talked about it a little bit last week, and I didn't have that much time. And how am I doing on time here today? That's my little darling stock, the down payment, the down payment on my property. But what CRISPR does is it's gene technology, basically, is what it is. And some interesting things have happened. You guys, when you get a chance, go in and look and just really read. So basically what they do is they splice genes, okay, because there's a lot of gene defects and things like that, there's one gene that causes them. There's one in all of our genes. There's one that causes it, and there's a lot of them. I think muscular dystrophy, there's only one gene. We know that sickle cell, there's only one gene, and several others that there's only one gene. And so basically, in a nutshell, what they have the ability to do already, believe it or not, is to go in and take out that defective gene and put in one that's not defective. That's like real talk. It sounds almost like sci-fi. Now, obviously, when you have something like that, you have to, it's got to go through all the different stages and government regulations and just all the different things like that. So there's a lot of hoops that it has to jump through. No doubt about that. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And so they're going through all that right now. Gene editing is what they call it. There's a lady, last name is Gray. I'll try to come up with the last name. Did I not type it in there? But anyway, with Miss Gray, she's a black lady. They actually did this. She had sickle cell, and they went in and they replaced that. And as of right now, she has not had any reoccurrences. I'll try to think of her last name. And if you guys look into this, you'll see it. And then go ahead and you can Google the lady, and you can see she's like really happy. She's like really happy because she was just in a lot of pain and a lot of discomfort, and it was just really tough on her. And they went ahead and did this, and now she says she feels so much better already. And so, what they're doing right now is they're keeping an eye on that to make sure that it stays that way. So, they're going to have, all the research done and so forth. And they're starting to, go through all the patent work as far as going through just all the other red tape and so forth about it. Also, now, a couple other little things. You can't have something like this without having some controversy. Here's the biggest controversial thing about it is that there was a couple over in China, and the father had HIV, and the mother did not have HIV. And they were worried that the kids might be born with HIV. And so this Chinese physician, and this wasn't even his area of specialty, guys, Stanford Medical School graduate, on his own, thinking that he's helped. Hello?
Audio's a little muffled.
Oh, is it muffled now? All right, I don't know what to do. We always get some of that, so I'll do the best that I can. But on his own, what this doctor did was, and he's thinking he's helping these patients, and so what he did was he went in and using CRISPR, went in to replace any genes that would be associated with HIV. And so the long and the short of it is the babies were born healthy. None of the babies had HIV. Okay? But this is the issue, is the guy did it without even really having all the approvals. It hadn't gone through all the tests and all the approvals that it has to go through. So even though he did it and even though it worked, the guy is still facing heat. So how much heat, we don't know. There's rumors that maybe he might have lost his medical license. He's not saying, but and who knows? You remember it happened in China too. So, and remember what China's trying to do. China's trying to lead the world. And so, as far as we know, what China might have said is, hey, publicly, we're going to reprimand you, but privately, we want you working for us. Okay? So, anyway, the long and the short of it is, we already see some of the capabilities of this. Can you imagine? Just imagine the potential there. Think about it. The world was shut down for, about a year or so because of a virus. Coronavirus. The world was shut down. The economies of the world, that's a lot of money. The economies of the world were shut down because of virus. Okay? And if you have some type of biotech developments coming up that can maybe assist in resolving something like that, if it can get rid of other genetic problems and things like that, we don't even know. We don't know how far it could go up. We really don't. Now, is it a guarantee that it's going to happen? Absolutely. There's no guarantee that that's going to happen. But even Peter Lynch used to have this theory that he was looking for a few 10 baggers. What he meant by 10 baggers are stocks that's going to be like 10 times. Okay? Well, that's cool. We all look for 10 baggers, and we can't, like I said, have our whole portfolio on 10 baggers. But you know what? I would like to find a couple thousand baggers. All right? A couple thousand baggers. You say, oh, that's unrealistic. That's unrealistic. What do you think Amazon was? Amazon was a hundred of thousand bagger. Tesla was the same thing. Remember I said before, if you can locate some of these and get in early enough and be patient, there you go. And you don't even need to find a lot of them. I know a guy who's doing real well. And this guy is kind of similar to me. He's retired from the finance industry. And so what he does full time is just manage his portfolios. And what he's trying to do is he's trying to get to what is it? He's trying to get to 24 million. That's what he's trying to do. Get to 24 million, and I think he'll do it too. But part of his plan as far as getting to the 24 million is he allocates a certain amount of his portfolio to stuff like this, which I do too. He allocates more than me because I really only have, really, I would say the amount that I allocate, and I have to crunch that, is probably 3% of my portfolio, not much. And I just gave myself an idea. I think what I want to do is just study and study and study some more, and maybe even try to get that up to 10%. Because yeah, he was up at 10%, and he said that's what he's trying to do, was get that up to 10%. And the reason why is that so let's just say that part of his portfolio is 10%. Okay, so of that, okay, let's just use round numbers. Let's say he's got 10 of these stocks that he's identified, and he puts $1,000 in each, just using round numbers, okay? Yours might be $100 or $10 or whatever. So he puts the same amount in each of them, not knowing which ones are going to hit and when they're going to hit. Just know that he's done his research, and if the right things come together, it's, a multi-thousand bagger or whatever. So what he said, in which is absolutely correct because I crunched the numbers, he says, I don't need all 10 to hit. I don't need all 10 to hit. I don't even need half of them to hit. Okay? If you get 2 of them to hit, guess what? That changes your life, and it changes the life of your offspring. And how much risk have you really taken? Okay? How much risk have you taken? So this stock right here, I think I put $100 into it. Okay, let's just say the stock tanks and it goes to 0. And maybe the president gets assassinated of the company, and there's a hostage, whatever. Just all the bad things that can happen happens. Okay, let's say that happens. All right, so what's my downside? Oh, I lost $100. Well, heck, I can go out to dinner and spend that. So that's what I'm saying. So it's not something that you go and you put any of your bill money in or any things like that. But to me, that's a part of what I consider, a modern portfolio, is to have a few of these that you've actually done the research in, and that you actually feel good about. Because if this thing explodes, to me, I don't even see a limit to something like this. And it's got other competitors and things like that too. And they're all going to be running and fighting for the patents and things like that. So, I mean, then you can address that, the way you want to. One of his competitors, symbol the code EDT edit, guess what? I went and just bought a little bit of that just as a hedge. Not much, but a little bit of it in case maybe edit gets all of their stuff before Galat does. At least, I got a little hedge. And a lot of times what happens when this type of technologies actually take hold, then all the top ones, they kind of go up all together. But anyway, enough time on that. Didn't mean to spend that much time on it. And technically, we didn't even really get into a bunch of fundamentals or not. But those are the stock stories. Once again, I'm not recommending that you go out and buy them, okay? This is educational. If you decide to buy something, great, okay? Do not invest money that you cannot afford to lose. If you decide not to buy it, that's great too. So anyway, remember we talked about, I guess, modern investment portfolios and building those and so forth. To me, a good part of that is being a visionary. Okay, being a visionary. And what I mean by being a visionary is you're not only looking at just what's happening now, but you're looking to see what's happening down the road. Remember we talked about earlier about a lot of the black trauma that we have to deal with. That's such a heavy weight on us so often that's all we can deal with is just trying to get to the next day. So it's very difficult to think further down the road, because this, I will tell you, is those that orchestrate our oppression, they put plenty of time in it. Plenty of time and plenty of thought. And, oftentimes they're playing chess while we're playing checkers. I hate to put it that way, but it is. Okay, look at Mitch McConnell. Just study Mitch McConnell sometime. Just see how he rolls. See how Mitch McConnell rolls. Just look at the things that he does, the things that he pulls off, and how he pulls them off, and who they're there to benefit. I mean, that'll give you a good idea. Study Strom Thurmond sometime. He's an old senator from South Carolina, was in the Senate for years, decades and decades and decades. Those are the type of people that influence a lot of the things that our young people have to deal with. Okay, so as far as being a visionary, and remember we talked about sectors that were in favor and out of favor and things like that. Quick reminder, oh man, I'm up against the time. Things that I like, I think are the future: artificial intelligence, biotech solutions, 5G development, trends in China, genetic engineering, cryptocurrency. And we'll move past all that quick because I think you guys kind of know how I feel about that stuff. And so when I'm starting to build my universe of stocks, I want to keep all of that in mind, okay? Decide what you want. You guys decide what you want. And nothing is off limits. Nothing. Some of y'all like nice stuff. That's cool. That's fine. And remember how we talked about, well, we're a group of consumers? We are, okay? Am I saying that there's something wrong with consuming things? No, I'm not. But what I am saying is that we don't want to make that the priority, okay? Because if we put in our work, okay, we can go and we can consume whatever we want, and it's not going to hurt our wealth. Think about that. So right now, you guys are paying a cost right now. Everybody that's here right now has decided to pay a cost toward their freedom. Okay, what is your freedom worth to you? Well, you guys have decided that on this Tuesday night, when you're tired already and mentally fatigued and dealing with all the stuff going on in this crazy, ugly world, you've decided you're going to pay the price to get some more of this knowledge as a down payment on your financial freedom. So once again, I applaud you guys, okay? Because you're already showing signs of being a visionary, all right? Stop consuming, start producing. We talked about that before, all right? And plan your escape from the corporate plantation. Okay, a lot of us don't have a choice right now, but you can be planning it. You can be working toward it, all right? So that at some point in time, you will no longer be trading your time for your money, okay? So when you go to work every day, you're trading your time for that paycheck and for that money, okay? And you don't have your freedom. I know, because I worked in the corporate world for years. There could be some place I wanted to go, and guess what? I had to get bosses permission to go. There are several of my college reunions that I missed because the man told me I couldn't go because it was held during Labor Day, and Labor Day was a busy time at the car dealership, and he wanted to keep everybody there. All right? Well, when I stopped trading time for money, if I want to go to my college reunion, I can go. I don't have to ask anybody, And there are other times, and they're not stupid. They kind of know generally what's a deal breaker for you and what's not. For example, if it was a close family relative, a funeral or something like that, I was probably, just going to go. Period. I'll tell you what really was a deal breaker for me is my graduations, and those guys were around. My kids' graduations, they were around me enough, and they knew that if I said, okay, one of my kids is graduating, such and such and such and such and such. I like to be able to go. They knew me well enough. They knew how I was wired well enough, and they know what significance as a family we placed on that, to where my boss, even if they were shorthanded or whatever, or if somebody else wanted to take off, he made sure, that I was able to get that time off, because that would have absolutely been a deal breaker for me. Because if I go, hey boss, my kid's graduating from college, got to be gone May 14th, blah, 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 blah. And if he would have said no, I would have been like, okay, cool, no problem. When do you want me to have the stuff out of my desk? They know that, and so they tend to go right up to that line. But, let's set ourselves up to where we don't have to ask anybody. And as far as like the hatred and the disunity and the oppression and the things like that, once we take care of all this stuff, we'll fly so far above that stuff that it's not going to be a daily distraction for us. I've said to you guys oftentimes, I try not to be involved with hate or mess or anything like that. It's not a good use of my time. I value my time more than that. Now, did I spend, an hour and a half explaining about a lot of this stuff that's going on and what they're doing to you? Yes, I did. The reason why I did that is because if you don't understand how you're being attacked, how can you defend yourself? When you understand how you're being attacked, you can much, much, much better defend yourself, and to also come up with a solution that will either completely or largely wipe that away. And also remember, thoughts are things. Thoughts are things. So if we know thoughts are things, let's make sure that they're positive. And literally, let's try not to put a tether on our mind. Okay? And what I mean by that is that we all need to decide what it is that we want. Okay? What it is that we want, decide that. Only you can decide that. And when you decide what it is you want, don't make it too small. Okay? Because if it don't seem crazy, it's not big enough. It's not. Okay? You guys are putting in the work. You're putting in 6 hours a week of studying this stuff. Okay? While all the rest of your buddies are playing video games or getting drunk or whatever, and there's going to come a time where you guys are going to be extremely well situated financially and wealth-wise, and they're going to look at you and ask you if you can throw some dollars at them and say, well, you must have been lucky. Well, it ain't lucky. It's not lucky. You guys have been around this long enough. It is not lucky. It's planning. It's what it is. It's just planning. It's not lucky. It's getting that knowledge, and it's planning. And so finally, we're gonna take care of 3 generations. We're gonna take care of 3 generations. Okay? Hey, all right. Went up against it again today, but like I said, we had a lot to cover. A lot to cover. What questions do you guys have? Questions? No questions at all?
What other analysts do you listen to that you haven't mentioned?
That I haven't mentioned in previous sessions? Well, oh my God, I wouldn't even be able to name them. I actually listened to all of them. And some of them I know going in that I'm not going to agree with. But I listened to them all because I want to get a full perspective. And I think enough of myself to feel that I can gather all the information and then make the decision that I want to make. And you guys are the same way. You guys are the same way. You guys get all the information and then you can make your decision. But okay, so some of the ones on my short list that I like, Ray Dalio. I like Ray Dalio. I may have mentioned him before, maybe, or not. I think everybody knows Kathy Woods is my favorite. But you got to have more than just that. Peter Lynch has been retired for a while, but and I was studied him 30 some odd years ago, and I still do books that I've already read of Peter Lynch. Um, and I still do because there are a lot of things that will still apply. Peter Lynch, way back in the day, he ran Fidelity Magellan, and that fund just rocked back then. It just rocked back then, and a lot of these people you can just YouTube. I mean, because some people like listening to YouTube and some people like reading. I do both. But I'll go back and sometimes listen to some of his old things, and some of them are kind of funny. And he talks about, not being too stuck on something just because that's the way it's supposed to be. Just make sure you look at everything. I read a pretty good amount of Warren Buffett. And what I do is I, take what I think is relevant to me, and what I don't think is relevant, I won't. I think that he is absolutely incredible as far as the old schoolers. One of the best. I do think that he is getting caught up a little bit. I think he's getting caught up. Time is passing him up a little bit. Now he's worth so much money. He can never be harmed that way. And he's the kind of guy who's fine with just making a few dollars here, a few dollars there, a few dollars here, because he's the master of compounding. The magic of compounding. He understood that way back, and he's still fine with that. I mean, he's the kind of guy, he can buy a portfolio of dividend stocks, stocks that maybe they're going to stay about the same. But for example, like aluminum is a dividend stock. I hate the company, but I'm still kind of maybe thinking about it because, they have like a 9% dividend, and that's pretty attractive. The reason why I don't like them is because they're, in essence, Comcast, and I hate Comcast. I just hate their service and stuff, but I don't want to get off. But Buffett's the kind of guy, he can just take a portfolio of dividend stocks and live off that, 7, 8, 9%, be totally happy. And it's true, when you have what he has accumulated, as long as you're not going backwards. But if you listen to him, like get his opinion on Bitcoin, and basically he dogs it out. Okay, he dogs out Bitcoin because he says there's no underlying asset for it. And the way I look at it is he's a smart guy. I like him. I read a lot of his stuff. I listen to a lot of his stuff, but he's not my daddy, and I don't have to do every single thing that he tells me to do. And you got to remember, I worked for guys like that when I was at Merrill Lynch, and I know how they roll. They don't tell you to do something until they have already done it, And he doesn't even deny that, because if you quiz him, Warren, now, what are you buying now? What stocks are you buying? He will not tell you till after he's already bought them. He will never, ever, ever, and he'll tell you the truth. He won't ever tell you anything that he's investing in until he's already done it. And guess what? We all do. We all do, including me. I'd already bought CRISPR. I'd already bought Square. I'd already bought Galat, and then I went public on it. They all do. I don't think that that's bad. Now, my audience is so small that we are not going to affect the performance of any of these stocks. Now, those guys have a big platform, and so literally Elon Musk can tweet out something and it'll jump. Okay, his audience is just that big. I don't have that type of audience. So literally, I actually read almost all of them, but those are some of the main ones. Even though I don't agree with Buffett on, and in my portfolio design now, he would have a heart attack if he saw where I've gone as far as the asset allocation. But I did it that way because to me, I want to be more forward thinking, and it's been proving that if you are more forward thinking and if you have a conservative amount long in that, some of those your returns are going to be, like a video game almost. I mean, my returns right now, what do we say they are? Like 328%. If you tell the average person, yeah, James has got returns of 328%, they're going to call you a liar. Okay, they're going to call you a liar. Anyway, next question. Next question.
This is Jordan.
Hey, Jordan, what's up, Chief?
Nothing much, man. Hey, I was gonna ask you, what kind of things um, have you done or changes have you made to combat that mindset of, like me having a young family trying to make that shift to being producers, and owners, and not focusing on spending, but really saving and really making power moves for the next generations. What kind of advice would you give to, um, I guess, your children? Trying to get them in that to break them out of that mindset of.
Well, my children are already getting off. So right now I'm focused on my grandchildren. My children are rolling. So I'm focused on, and they're going to be rolling even more. And I'll tell you something else and I haven't said this to them. I should have said it. I'm sorry, you guys. Is that my kids are almost always tuned in here. I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud of that. I'm so proud of them. You guys, I love all you guys so much. You know that, but I can't say it enough. You know. But so my kids are on a good path. I mean, can somebody slip up? Sure. Sure. But like Judah is a good part of my focus. Judah is my unborn grandson, and I'm humble that my daughter hasn't hasn't put me on double secret probation yet, because she knows I'm so focused on it and building his portfolio so that he will always have some freedoms, that he won't ever feel like he's a mental or financial slave. And then even with all that, you got to be careful just the way you release things, and also you don't want to release $100,000 to a crackhead or whatever. So you got to monitor all of that type of stuff too. But like we talked a little bit about your situation, is you got a valuable skill set. So I would start developing some of that on your own on the side. We talked about that as far as building that business, because I mean it's nothing but profitable when you have that skill set and you can repair expensive European vehicles the way you do. You're like a walking money machine, man. Just got to figure out how to tap into it. And then all the other things, it's always a snowball approach. It's you start and you build momentum. So, I mean, like your kids are pretty young, man. What I would do with them is I would start teaching them basic financial literacy now. And you know what? If my kids were your age, what I would do is I would start exercising some Jewish financial principles. I mean, I wouldn't call them that. We just call them whatever. But I literally get 5 jars for each kid. And, and I give them each $10 a week and just allocate that way. You remember when I talked about the 5-jar thing? And just depending on whatever you want them to go to, that's up to you, because I'm not going to tell you how to do your tithes and offerings and things like that. But as far as the amount that they can spend, it's cool because they start to get that concept, and the amount that they invest and so forth and so forth. I mean, you got 1 jar that they can open that when there's a special occasion. The investment jar, they can only open that when it's full. And then the spending jar, they can just use it spending all their normal little stuff. So they don't feel penalized. So to me, I think a good part of teaching financial literacy to kids is so that they don't feel penalized. Remember the book I got coming out, Baby Judah Learns to Invest? I might have read it. I don't know if I read it to you guys or not. But part of the philosophies there is that you notice how Granddaddy, when he did flashcards and asked Baby Judah about asset allocation and about diversification and about compound interest and things like that, and Baby Judah got the answer right, Granddaddy rewarded him with a few dollars. Okay, I see no issue at all with some modest financial rewards for kids in order to affect change. I see no issue with that whatsoever. And so what happened was Judah was encouraged by those dollars. So on his own time, he would get with his mother and his father, and he would be studying those things for the next time granddaddy came around, and then he was like just killing it. And his granddaddy was so impressed, his granddaddy ended up just throwing in extra money because he was so smitten and so impressed. And so just things like that. Does that help at all? And then obviously, you know where to find me, so we can get deeper into some more detailed things. Okay, next question. Any more questions? All right. I know y'all are tired, but you know what? It should be a good kind of tired, you guys. I mean, because you just paid yourself. You just paid yourself. So this was volume 6, and okay, so there's a total of 17. So we're getting there. So we got 11 more. So if you can imagine, y'all got all of this in 6 volumes. After 17, y'all gonna be monsters, Okay. All right, everybody, be blessed. Martin, hit the music. Stay blessed. I love all you guys, and all you guys got my number. Call or text anytime. I'll be happy to talk to any of you guys. And you guys got 2/3 of the class left. I'm still proud of you. I'm proud of the fact that you guys are just making this kind of effort. So I feel like I owe it to you. I owe it to you to give the best information that you cannot get from anywhere else. And you guys also remember your reading material. Look through that stuff. I gave it to you for a reason, okay? So be blessed, stay blessed, and we will see you 6 o'clock on Friday. Peace out.